Hello, this is Dave from ERC, and we're going to learn how to build the fuselage for the Dancing Wings Mini Eagle. So let's just dive right into it. The first thing we want to do is locate the holes in the side pieces and just punch them out, because that helps to align the fuselage reinforcement piece, this thing here. I'm going to glue the pieces together for the reinforcements. It just goes like this. And the short side goes towards the rear, the wide side goes towards the front. Going to use the CA glue, and when I glue it, I want to make sure that it's perpendicular, otherwise things will come out funny. So I'm just using the square to hold it perpendicular while it dries. Hit it with some kicker just to make sure it hardens up and stays square. So to make the beak reinforcement, I'm using some hobby grade 1/32 inch plywood. I'm going to make a mark just a little bit back from where the reinforcement front of it is, and then I'm just going to trace along here like this to that mark. Make a little mark up here, and then I'm going to do the same thing there. Just remove it, and now you can see we're going right across here, and then we're going to cut it off. So we also need to allow for the foam that's going to glue on here, so I'm just going to draw a little line right here. So it doesn't have to be perfect, we're just going to make a little line right here, and then make a little cutout here, and then a little cutout up here. I'm just going to cut it with ordinary scissors, and then we'll just see what it looks like. So here's the start of it right here, and I just need to cut along this part, and then we'll just cut out these notches. And this is the top part. I'll just do this on camera so you can see that the scissors actually work. I'll just cut along this line like that. At least I hope I'm doing it on camera. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see what you're doing. And there it is. And now I just need to cut out these notches. So I'll make a little cut this way, and then I'll cut the notch of plywood out. So there we go. Now we'll just do the other side. This is where doing it off camera would be a whole lot easier. And then we'll just cut along here. And there it is. So there's the beak reinforcement. And I'll just glue this on here like that. And then the chassis piece will go on top of that, and I'll glue that. So now I use some of the CA glue to glue on my beak reinforcement pieces, and I'm just going to put a book on this while they dry. And you can see what I've done here. I've just used these barbecue skewers to align it, hold it in place with the holes, and I'm using some of this fabric tack from Walmart again to glue the pieces together. So what you do is you just apply a little bit to the wood, and then you press the foam against it and pull it back apart, and then let it tack up. So just apply an ample amount. And once you get all your glue on there, just take your other side, put it over the barbecue skewers, and then what I'm going to do is press it against the wood just for a second, and then pull it away from the foam again and let it tack up for about 1 or 2 minutes. So there it is, all clamped and drying right now. And you may also notice that I have this beak protector underneath the frame, and that's clamped and glued too. So next thing is I'm going to glue in this top piece, and the reason for that is I need to know this distance where I'm going to glue in my motor mount. So I need to know this width here, and the only way to do that is glue this piece in so I can see what the width actually is. So I'm going to use this fabric tack like I did before to glue it in, the same method, and I'm going to use some of these clamps to hold it. And also I recommend bending it a little bit with your hands just to make sure it has the curve that meets the specifications. Otherwise it's kind of hard to do afterward. Alright, so I've applied some fabric tack glue right along here on the foam and right along here on the fuselage. And remember, I have to push it together first and then pull it back apart and let it tack up. I'll let it dry for about a minute. Alright, I'm doing that side, and now I'm doing this other side, and then I'll wait about a minute for it to tack up. Okay, I'm trying to maintain the contour, just pressing together, and this glue gives you plenty of time to do that because it doesn't dry right away. And once you're happy with this fit back here in the rear, you can go ahead and put a clamp on it, and I'm going to use one of these type of clamps. And that'll hold that temporarily, and we'll go ahead and work on the front part here. Got both clamps on there now, and this front one's just easy enough to put it right underneath. Now we've got the fuselage set upside down. I'm getting ready to put the firewall in for the motor mount here. And if we look at the directions here, you can see the firewall is right even with this circular cutout at the top. And the firewall is just contacting that. And we can also see from the directions that it has to be 2 to 3 degrees pitched down and 2 to 3 degrees pitched to the right. What we're going to have to do is put some spacers in. And I think what I can do is use this piece right here and maybe glue it in there as one of the pieces. It's already got an angle on it. And it might be about 2 degrees. I don't know for sure, but I'll measure it and see if it'll work. If you look at this picture from RC Model Geeks, you'll see how he manufactured his to fit into those notches. But this piece that I have here might actually work and fit into those notches. Unfortunately, on the other end, you can see that this piece is kind of skinny. I won't be able to use that, but I might be able to use some of this leftover plywood. So I've just cut the piece of wood off here, And you can see it does have a bevel to it, but it has to be 2 or 3 degrees. So measuring it with the scale, I can see that I do have about 2 to 3, about 2.2 degrees actually. And we have to install it a certain way so that we have down thrust. So we'll just place it right in here and glue it in like that. So we'll have to put a skinnier piece on this side to give it that right angle and down thrust. So I went ahead and cut this little piece right here to give us that little bit of right thrust. And I've laid it on top just so you can see the difference, that it's a little bit skinnier. So I glued the wider one right in here like this, and then I'll glue the skinnier one on the other side. So I used the medium CA glue to glue the 2 pieces in just like that, and you can see one here and then one on the other side. So now that those 2 pieces are dry, I'm going to put a little cross piece across here that's also beveled and just let that dry. So now the motor box is completely dry, and I put a little piece in the bottom right there, and that'll give us that right thrust and down thrust that we wanted. So I took one of these HobbyKing prop savers and just drilled it out to make it accommodate the shaft on this motor, and then put the screws in with a little bit of Loctite. And I've used this little piece of wood, which is a spacer, and put that underneath the metal motor mount. And now we just need to glue it in. So now I've used this CA glue to glue in the motor mount, and you can see that it has a little bit of right thrust and down thrust, and the clamp is on there to hold it. You also notice that there is a wider section at the top and a narrow section at the bottom. Maybe it's clearer if you look at it this way. I'm just trying to give you all the angles so you can see what's going on. And you can see how I glued the motor mount to those side pieces, the beak reinforcement, so to give it that extra strength. So all this is fastened to that and is fastened to the main support, so all this should be pretty secure. So you can see that the prop now fits on the prop saver, and it's away from the beak so it won't hit. But I could probably move it back a little by removing the wooden spacer that's underneath the motor. And that'll move the prop back maybe into this area. And that can be easily done by taking the screws out. Like everything else in this kit, I see that the wing is a little bit longer than the notch that's in the fuselage. So it looks like I'm going to need to cut out a little bit of the fuselage. So I'm going to have to cut this notch out so that this piece on top can fit right up against the wing. Before I glue it in, I want to do that. It's just one of those things in the kit that you have to deal with. So I'm just going to take an X-Acto knife and cut off a little bit of this foam right here and do the same thing on the other side. So now that I've notched that out, I'll just go ahead and glue the top piece in with the fabric tack, and I may have to cut this little piece off the back later. So that's all for this video. In the next video, I'll be putting on the V-tail on the back and putting in the servos and hooking up the control rods. So stay tuned for that.